it's logical you're going to have people choose sides. Someone's going to say, hey, let me look at it from this agent is going to give me this information, and then someone's going to say, let me look at it from the owner's standpoint, and they can't lose all this money. All right, and we get into opening books, which isn't going to happen. We get into talk of all different kinds of things like salary cap and revenue sharing, and that's not going to happen. We understand that. But the owners, who are a very crafty bunch, and they know how to paint this, are going to do the same thing again, and they're going to use that to their advantage here. See, the players aren't wrong, but there's not going to be anybody in this climate on their side. Nobody. Do the owners have more money than they let on? Yes. Do they create basically costs that they have to pay? See, when the owners own a franchise and then borrow money to improve the stadium, open different revenue producing of things around the stadium, whether it's things for the fans or amusements or restaurants or walkways or whatever it may be. Any real estate development done around the stadium always produces revenue. They can borrow that money, and as they pay it off, say, hey, this is my cost of doing business. Well, it's not all your cost of doing business. What you've done is you've enhanced your overall value of your asset by borrowing money and using that to improve the asset. It would be like you taking out a home equity loan and then saying, hey, you have to pay it off. See, I bought the house originally for $300,000, and I've owned the house for many years, but I just took out a home equity on it because it's appreciated to the point now that it's worth $1 million, and I took out a $500,000 home equity, and now you have to pay for that. Well, why? You didn't need to take that out. Well, yeah, because I had to do this, I had to do that, I had to put a new bedroom upstairs, I had to do this, I had to put a pool in the back, I had to do this, I had to do that. Same thing. It's asset enhancement, but creating short-term expense. And that's what they call their costs, but they're not their year-to-year costs, they're their overall costs. So when one of the agents goes into great, depth about this, like a Boris as an example, he's not wrong. He's not wrong. But it's not something that you're going to be able to sell to the fans because they don't care. They don't want to hear that. What they hear is, oh, you can't play baseball for 3 months at $7 or $8 million. There's 42 million people out of work, but you can't play baseball for 3 months, 82 games, until next October for $8 million, and you're complaining. I would do that and that's what the sentiment is. And the owners know that's there, and they can't lose. So the players are between a rock and a hard place this time. Are they wrong in their economic fight? No, not on a basis of what's real long-term and what's not. They're not wrong. I had somebody saying that to me today. Listen, you got to understand. I said, yes, it all makes sense. Owners won't open their books up. Their franchises are worth a fortune. The Atlanta Braves, the one team that has to open their books up because they're owned by Liberty Media, made $476 million in revenue last year and $432 million the year before. All true. There's revenue streams that they don't even let the players even know about. BAM Tech was something that they made a fortune on. They didn't give anything to the players. Of course not. Streaming, they won't give anything to the players. No. What the players should try to do here is get what's best for them. Let them find a way to get their side, to get the union, to realize it can't win this fight. I mean, coming back and offering to play 100 games and then say, well, the players really want to play more games. No, they don't. They want their money. They're part of going from 82 to 100 games was we want to be paid in full, minus the April-May agreement. It's not going to happen. owners aren't going to agree to that. And they don't think they have to win the fight. They're not going to agree to that. As a bunch of owners have said, I'm not opening my books. I'm not opening my gates to just let the players in and losing $150,000 every 2 weeks. Now, based on all their expenses and paying full tilt on salaries, they would be losing that. Because that's based on 100% of the revenues. It's not based on 38 or 40 or 41% of the revenues, whatever would be able to get their hands on this year. We don't know exactly what that would be. But what would be better for the Player Association is to try to realize that you're not going to win this fight this year. Try to get into the other pools. So make a bigger inroad into the larger postseason revenue pool now. Make an inroad into the streaming pool of revenues. Making an inroad into the gambling, especially on site gambling in the future years, on that pool. There are pools of revenue that are and revenue streams that are going to produce a lot of money in the years to come that the players are cut out of. Start to introduce a way to get into those this year. And I think the owners would allow that to happen if they could find a way to not have their year this year or their unlucky season with this pandemic come back to clobber them. Now, that was their first offer. It was extreme. I'm sure they have one that's more to the middle, but it's not going to be, we'll add 18 games a team and we want all our money. Well, that's not going to work. That's not going to fly. And if the players are adamant, like Scherzer said, that don't bother if we don't get all our money, well, then let's go home now and just stop talking about it. See you next season, hopefully. You're not going to have spectator sports for a while here in this country. As we start to inch open, remember, we still aren't even open in our city yet. New York City is a week, 2 weeks, whatever, still away, maybe more from opening. We're only in phase one in a lot of areas, and we still have to wait to see what the kickback is as far as whether the virus kicks up in certain areas around the country. We have to wait and see if that happens. We'll know more in 2 or 3 weeks from now. And there's always the wait or the thought of what comes back when the cool weather comes back in November, what happens then, because there's already been talk about that, which it may be lessening already because of the heat around the country, and now it's going to kick back up in November. Who knows? We don't know if that'll happen or not, but it could. So we might be a ways away from spectator sports and from any spectator events, whether you're talking about concerts, movie theaters, Broadway plays, any spectator sport, where you crowd people into a building, elbow to elbow, row to row, thousand upon thousand. We are a ways away from that happening. We will see a vaccination before we get back to those days.